Hello gems, welcome to the Sapphire Star. Today we are going to be learning how to cut up a face on a VTuber for Live2D Cubism. This is going to be one part of a huge series of me showing you how to cut up several different types of assets and parts of your VTuber. This one will focus on the face, so we'll cover eyes, nose, the face itself, lips, mouth, and yeah, that's what we'll cover in this video, so let's get to it. So essentially there are two different ways that you can prepare your model. So I'm assuming that you already finished drawing the model at this point, or if you haven't started yet, that's okay too. We'll talk a little bit about that. But there's two approaches that I've seen that I like when it comes to setting up your file and your model for Live2D Cubism. The first way is you can start separating pieces from the very beginning. So once you start actually sketching your character, you can make sure that you're separating your pieces on each layer. So that means you have to be very conscious of every time you do a new piece of the character, you start a new layer. So that's one way that you can do it. A lot of people do it that way. That way is way quicker. It's way better. It's a way more efficient way to do it. However, because I'm a difficult person and because I like to make everything impossible for myself, I choose way number 2, which is the way I like it. You might prefer this way as well. Now, way number 2 is you draw the whole character as if it's a flat illustration, and then you go back in and you use the lasso tool in Photoshop or whatever art program you're using, and then you start separating and cutting out the pieces, and then you make all the fixes and adjustments to make it a whole piece. We'll explain more about what that looks like later. So that's number 2. So there's one way where you can cut it from the beginning, or 2, you can cut it after you finish drawing it. So 2 ways, choose one of those ways and have that in mind for your approach when you're going to start drawing your character or when you start to set it up for Live2D Cubism. So the next step is you want to make sure after you get all of your layers done, and I'm going to walk you guys through step by step every layer, how it works. But I want you to keep in mind, if you're working on your character, make sure that you are using a program, an art software that allows you to export your model or save your model, your art file as a .psd. I will have a list up here for you to look at to see if your program is compatible with moving your character to a PSD, because Live2D Cubism only takes the .psd file type. So I will also have that infographic for download in our Discord if you want to join. That will be in the Sapphire YouTube handouts right along with the Google Docs that I'll be making for this video to show you all the separation of the layers. So you can find both of those resources there. You can see it on the screen here right now as well. Keep in mind it must be a PSD file. So that's crucial. That's absolutely important. Live2D Cubism only takes that. And for anybody who is working on a model mobile, if you're using Clip Studio Paint, if you're using IBS, both of those do work, yes. If you're using Live2D Cubism, there is no mobile Live2D Cubism. So you can have the file, but you're going to have to move to a PC to be able to use Live2D Cubism. It's not on mobile. Make sure that you can get your file to a PC and utilize that if you're planning on animating your model and rigging it. Okay, so next, file size. File size, really, everybody thinks there's a specific size. Like, they're like, oh, what size should I make my canvas? Really, there's not. You can make your canvas whatever size you want. I'll show you guys mine here if you're interested in it. Mine is like kind of random because I cropped it a bit, but this is what I have. So I have 5,918 pixels by 10,795. You can make it, I recommend you start off with a bigger model. It's going to be easier to move your model over to a smaller canvas if you have to, because you don't want low quality, low res looking model when you're streaming. You want it to be high quality art so that if you zoom into your model to do like a funny face or something silly, that it's not going to be pixelating the art. So make sure you do make sure your canvas size is bigger. This is the size I use, and then make sure your resolution is 300 as well. And I have a full body model, so if you have a half body, you can do like 3,000 pixels by 3,065, but if you're doing a half body or a full body, then what I just showed you, you can utilize that, or something bigger if you wanted to as well. But that's what I'm starting with here. So that's canvas size. That's all you need to know as far as like art files. Now let's actually hop into and break down layer by layer how you are going to separate your files. We'll talk about accessories, we'll talk about eyes, all of it. Let's do this. So just a quick little tidbit tip here. I'm gonna let you guys know. I need to change it. I'm going to fix it. So listen up here, lean in, listen up. So right now I have this labeled as I right. It should actually be I left because it's her left. Because think about like when you're looking at the camera, how your camera is going to mirror what you're doing. So I'm going to have to go through and relabel all of my stuff, which I will do. So this is going to be I left, even though it's called I right over here. I'm going to have to go through and rename them and such. So please keep that in mind. Do the opposite of what you think. So like if this character, even though we look at it and it's our right side, it's going to be her left. So do keep that in mind. Quick quick tip, hot tip, make sure you name your layers correctly when you're doing that. So we're gonna be going over, you can see all my layers here on the right. So we're gonna be going over this. The first thing I want to preface this with is, guys, is you're not doing it wrong. Like there's really no right or wrong way to do it. It's not like if this is not named the exact same thing and it's not perfectly named this and it's not layered this way. No, it's not like that. It's very, Live2D Cubism is very flexible with the naming system, with the layer system. So honestly, again, we're gonna talk more about it, but don't stress yourself out about everything being named the exact same thing, because it does not have to be that way. So we're going to start with face. So this is how you are going to separate your face layers, at least from what I'm going to be doing for this model. I'm going to be hopefully making more tutorials in the future talking about how to get a more 3D looking face, because there's some really cool Live2D models that look very 3D. But we're gonna address that a little bit here. So here's the face folder. We have a folder in our layers called face. First, let's go over the actual face structure. This is the first one here, is your face base. So I'm going to pull this layer out so you can see. Again, there's going to be a Google Docs as well in the Discord if you want to see all this separate from the video. So this is the face layer. It's literally just the flat color. So whatever color your character's face is, whatever your skin tone is, make just a flat shape with none of the shading, none of the line art, nothing. It's just the face shape. So that's what you're going to want to have. You can call it whatever you want. I called it face base. So we're going to pull that over here. Perfect. Next we have the chin highlight. So if you want to do a painterly look, I recommend that you separate different like highlights and shadows. So this is just a chin highlight. You see how I lay it on top of the model and it looks normal, but then if I pull it off, it looks kind of weird. So this is like, the more you separate elements, the more control you will have. Again, there is no absolutes. It's not, it must be this way. I could put the chin highlights with the face base. I could have it this way. I'm just going to have less control when I'm in the middle of rigging on Live2D. So you can do it this way. You're going to have less control. So the more you can separate your layers out, the more control you have, the more animated, the more lively you can make your character. So I separated the chin highlight. I'm still trying it out with this painterly. I might have to change some layers later. I don't know if all this is going to work 100% yet, but again, you guys will see in the Google Doc. I'll make sure to keep that updated so that you have the full version to see what I ended up going with in the final model for this. So next is the line art. Mine is not fully drawn. I could have fully drawn it. I don't feel like I needed the top, so I just didn't draw the top. I'm gonna be real with you. It's because I was a little bit lazy. It's okay. So we got the face line art. Again, you could have it like this. This could be your face right here. This could work. I just knocked over my bubbles. This could work, but if you want more control, separate it all out. So I have the line art on its own layer like this. So face line art. Next we have cheek painting. So this is literally just like blush and just like extra painting stuff. Same thing for the L. This is just extra blush and painting stuff. It looks really messy, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be like super strict. So again, I could separate the face fully like this, but nope, I've been separating it more because I want more control. So that's how you would separate the face. If you have like a rim, like a face shadow, if you have like darker colors coming around the face, you'd want that to be separate as well. I'll actually pull up a quick example of another model for you guys to look at so I can show you what I mean by the face shadow thing. So here's another model I did. This is actually a commissioned model. So you see how these shadows are separate? So here's another example. So you have the face right here, face, and then you have the face shadows. So that's another thing you can do if you want to get like that more like 3D look, and then you'll be able to mess with that in Live2D too. So there's another example of how you can separate the face if you have like more intense shadows. Next, we are going to talk about how to separate the nose. I also want you guys to keep in mind that you might have to bring your file back into Photoshop and bring it back out, because sometimes you literally just don't know until you get it into Live2D Cubism. You just don't know what you're going to end up wanting to move. Once you learn more about Live2D Cubism, sometimes you'll change your mind. So go with this under the assumption that you're probably going to have to redo stuff, and that's okay. Don't be afraid to have to redo stuff. So next we're going to take a look at the nose here. So this is how I separated the nose. You can get really finite with this too. Mine is like pretty broad, but so I have the nose shadow here. This is a separate layer. We have the nose ridge. So this is like a ridge. I actually have to fix that probably but I have the nose ridge here too. The reason why this is separate is because when I start turning her head to like look this way, we're going to want to be able to manipulate the bridge separately for sure. So that needs to be on its own layer. And then we have the nose itself. You could get really crazy with it and separate each like a nostril too. You know what I mean? But I didn't do that for this model. I might go back and change that. I don't know yet. We'll see. But that's nose. So I just have 3 layers for nose. So we're going to collapse that. How you have things layered in Photoshop over here itself doesn't matter too much because you can change it in Live2D Cubism. Try to be organized about it, but it's not too much. Like I don't even have everything in full folders. Things are kind of a mess right now, but that's okay. Next, we're gonna do the mouth. So let's talk about mouth next. So how you do the mouth for Live2D Cubism. Mine is a little bit different. Now, my art is a little bit more Western, Midwestern style. Some of y'all might have a model like that. Some of y'all might have more of a 2D model. This might not be the best help for you if your model is very like anime and it has a 2D mouth, but my mouth is more 3D. So if you have a more 3D mouth, this is gonna be helpful to you. Okay, so lip line. I have the lip line separated. So this is just like the smile. This is important because then we can manipulate that for her face expressions like sad, happy, angry, whatever. So we got the lip line as a separate piece. So we'll pull that out. We have the upper lip right here. So we got upper lip because then we'll be able to manipulate that as well. We got lower lip right here. And then we have the teeth, main row. So those are her teeth. We have it separated into fangs too. You can do it all. You can do the teeth all as one. So if you had like fangs or something, you can just do the teeth all together. I separated it to left and right fang because again, the more separate it is, the more control you have. So we have left fang, right fang because she's a wolf girl. So she has like canines. Then we got the tongue here. Tongue is on its own, separate. And then we got back mouth. So let me just say again, in case you might be confused watching this video, it's like, oh, like, okay, the teeth are like left fang, right fang, and main row, but like, why is the tongue the whole tongue? Well, that's just the way I decided to do it. Like you can separate the tongue more if you wanted. Like you can do highlights on their own layer. You can do the tongue line on its own layer. It's really up to you. Like how much work, but remember, the more you separate your layers, the more work you're gonna have for yourself, but the more control you're gonna have. So it depends really on the end goal here. So we'll just move the mouth back there, but that's what the mouth looks like if you're doing like a more Midwestern style. Okay, next is the eyes. So I'm hopping up a little bit around here, guys. I start with the face, which is down here. We're gonna go up to eyes and drop this down. Okay, so I have a folder for eye right, eye left, and eyebrows. So I separated it that way, 3 different sections: eye right, left, eyebrows. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna just talk about one eye here because you do the same thing for eyebrows and eye. So we'll talk about just one side for each. So first, actually, let's do the left eye. We're gonna do left eye. Okay, so highlights. Separate your highlights to be their own layer. So here's a big highlight. You can put your highlights together or you can separate them. Remember, the more separated, the more control you have. So I have this little highlight on a separate layer right here. See? So they're different. So we have highlight 1, highlight 2. You could put them together like this if you wanted to as well. I don't do that. I separate it more. So next we have the eyeliner main. So if you have any type of eyeliner or top of the eye, you want to separate it as like the main chunk, the main section right here. So we got this here. And then next we have the eyelash. So if you have eyelashes, separate them. So we have a bigger one here, like this is the wing. We have the eyelash lower 1, eyelash lower 2. There we go. So there's all of our eyelashes. So if you have individual eyelashes, you could clump them. If you have like little bitty eyelashes, like little strings, you could separate each of them if you wanted, but that's going to be a lot of work. Again, that's going to be a lot of work, but you could do it, or you could just put them as a group. It's totally up to you. It'll just be a different way that you end up animating it. So, and then next we have the lower line. So this is literally just a little bit of eyeliner. I wanted to give that its own separate thing as well. And then next we have the lower eye too. So here, and this, you could separate the tear duct as well if you want, but that's all separate in and of itself. So that's like all the external around the eye type stuff. Next we have the pupil. The pupil, I did mine a little bit different. You could make your whole pupil the whole section right here, the whole circle, and be done. And then that's it. You're good. It could be that. Because when you're moving it around, the eye's going to be moving around the face like this. When you're looking left, right, up, down, it's going to move like that, right? So, and you can move your layers in Photoshop to test stuff too. I do this a lot. So like left, right, up, down, etc. You can do it that way. The reason why I separated it is because I'm going to be trying a new technique this time around. I've never done it before, but I'm going to be trying it. And that's getting the eyes that have physics. So if you've seen any Live2D VTubers that have really pretty eye physics and their eyes like bounce and like glow when they open type of thing, and like you see things moving in the eyes, separate your eye layer stuff as much as you possibly can to get that maximum control. So I separated mine a little bit different here than how you would normally if you're just going simple. So literally see this little star right here? That's its own layer. That's legitimately its own layer. And then for the glows here, every single one of these pieces, these little glows right here, are their own layer. I have 3 of them right here. All of these are on their own layer. And then next we have the pupil on its own layer as well. So here's the pupil, and then we have the pupil L. There you go. So I have it all, and I could separate it too where like this is its own thing as well. That looks really creepy. Or this is its own thing as well, separate from the back. So again, break it down as much as you need. That's how I broke it down and how I'm going to be working on doing eye physics. So next we have the eyelid. You could separate this into line and shading, but I just have it as one full piece. There's the eyelid right there. And then the eye white. It's very important that you have the eye white on its own layer. You have to have the eye white on its own layer because you're going to have to clip the eyeball to the eye white so that you can look around without the eye itself like flying off like into the oblivion opacity and like showing on your face right here. And if you don't have an eye white, actually somebody commented on one of our YouTube videos the other day. Thankful, we can say a shout out to them. They said, I don't have eye whites. What am I supposed to do? I don't understand how I'm gonna move my eyes without the eye whites. So we came to this conclusion that they can just make an eye white that is 0 opacity. Yes, Live2D Cubism does take lower opacity. You can lower the opacity itself in Live2D Cubism as well. Live2D Cubism does not take special layers. So if you're in Photoshop and you have like a multiply layer or like an overlay layer, Live2D Cubism does not take that type of special layer format. You'd have to flatten it down. So keep that in mind too as well. That's a bonus tip. But you can use special layers in you can make special layers in Live2D Cubism if that makes sense. So you would wait to move that over there. You can have an invisible eye whites or have it like on 1% opacity and then and clip the eyeball to that if for some reason you didn't have eye whites. So keep that in mind too, I guess, if your character doesn't have eye whites for some reason. So next we have the eyebrows. Simple as literally just the eyebrow. Again, if you wanted to, I guess you can split it more. I wouldn't. I don't think that's really necessary. Eyebrow is just by itself. You could like split, like if I wanted to, I could split these little hairs to be their own too. You don't need it though. So then you can just do left eyebrow, right eyebrow. And that's about it. That's about it for the face. You got your face done then. Now you have your face separated. For me, for the gems, I can show you how I did that if you're interested in it. Obviously not everybody's gonna have gems on their character, but it's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. So we have the sapphire as its own layer right here. You could separate the shadow as well. I didn't. You could. I didn't though. So we have the sapphire right there. If I wanted the sapphire to have pretty physics like the eyes, I could separate the sparkle by itself, the highlight by itself. I might actually do that now that I'm thinking about it. We have the baby gems as well. These are their own layers too. Every single one's on their own layer. You could separate the shadow as well. So that's how I did the gems. So in the next section, we're gonna go over how you separate your hair for Live2D Cubism. If you're looking for a video to start next, you can use my old Live2D cut up guide. I will have a full one released eventually on this channel that is more updated, but you can check this one out next or hop right into the Live2D series part 1. I'll see you next time on the Sapphire Star. Bye!